Hey, just catching your rambling friend here, who honestly has been at a spot that I could not ramble these last few days. So today I'm going to get real with you. This week I have been feeling rather in the dumps. Not all the time, but often enough that I sure as heck took notice. Honestly, it started when the attacks on Israel began last weekend. And what I've come to realize is that I'm not alone in this experience. So many people I've connected with these last few days are feeling very similar. And I didn't want to rush into a podcast that I knew I needed to reflect on and pray on. And let me tell you, I don't have any magic pixie dust or words that I'm going to promise peace with today. But today, I have a little system to my madness. And I'm going to share with you some updates with, of course, some Jenna commentary pieces, but most importantly, some tips that I feel are going to help us lean into navigating these challenging times as best I can. Hi, I'm Jenna Dix, and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode brought to you by products and services I'm thoroughly addicted to. Hey there, memory makers and candid capturers. Are you looking for a photographer who turns every moment into a work of art? Look no further than Catherine Smith Photography. From senior photos that capture the essence of your student's unique journey to a heartwarming family photo shoot that freezes time with every click, Catherine has a knack for making your memories last a lifetime. Our family has actually trusted Catherine for years to capture our most amazing memories, including our wedding all the way to our photo shoots for our family every single year. And we cannot get enough of her incredible work. She brings a fun, lighthearted vibe to every photo session, making the experience as unforgettable as the photos themselves. So whether you're celebrating a senior milestone, gathering the family for a portrait-perfect moment, letting the kids be kids in a playful shoot, or saying I do with the love of your life, Catherine Smith Photography has got you covered. Book your session today and create memories that you will never forget. Capture the joy, capture the love, capture life with Catherine Smith Photography. Catch Catherine's information down below in the show notes. Hey, I hope you are having a peace-filled day as much as you possibly can. You obviously heard in my intro there that, I have definitely been in a space in my own life this last week or so where it has not been the most peace-filled. And you know what? I feel that's fair. Because if you look around, peace is just up in the air for so many humans right now. And it's okay if we have the feels as we watch people experiencing really difficult and horrific times. So, as we jump in, like I was saying in that introduction, I've been at a space where I couldn't find the words. And now, as I'm finding some words, or at least being able to be at a space where I feel like, okay, I can piece some of my thoughts together, cohesive enough that I feel it's time to share and get this message out there, I will be transparent. Your girl has a cold. So you may hear some sniffles. I'm just on the first day of it, right? So I'm praying it's quick and over with. But you might just catch a couple sniffles or a little cough here and there. But we all get it. It's fall, and with fall comes colds. So I didn't want that to hold up this message any longer. But I just knew I needed to really reflect and pray on what I came and shared. I knew it also was a topic I didn't want to completely just skip over, push under the rug and talk about something else. I felt that wasn't fair. And I just wasn't doing the time in the world justice if I skipped over it. And I'll be transparent that I still fear that I'm going to miss something big or miss sharing something that's incredibly impactful, or a message that I feel people need to hear or need to know. Because honestly, I've been on content overload these last, 8 days or so. But in addition, maybe, I just haven't reflected on something long enough or prayed on something hard enough. But like I said, it's definitely something I'm just at the space now where it's like, it needs to get out there. More people need to start speaking up and sharing these thoughts. Because this is something that I've been talking to a lot of people of faith or people from different political spaces. We've been talking about these things, and a lot of us are feeling very similarly. And I'm like, enough is enough. I need to get my thoughts out there because, and I'll get to this piece later, and I'm going to talk about it again, but we need to start to speak up. We need to start to say what our thoughts and what our different ideas are. Because the problem is so many people are being quiet, and we need to get the message out, okay? So the fact that spurred this entire spiral of mine, as I said, right? The attack on Israel. So counting back date-wise, okay, so I believe it was October 7th, so it was a Saturday here, right? Hamas, which is a terrorist group, attacked Israel. And they went in, and it was a horrific attack. I mean, they went in and killed, roughly over 1,000 people by the end of it. And it was disgusting. I mean, literally, you had... and right now the word is escaping my mind, but not parachuters, but they're coming down on these like parachutes that had motors. And why is my brain not working and not coming with the term? But we talked about it a lot these last few days, but came down like that from the sky, landed, went and attacked a music festival, killing hundreds, right? I mean, and because of social media, unfortunately, lots of live videos were streamed, videos were recorded and posted. I mean, some of these moments were just absolutely absurd and horrific and disgusting and pure evil. And, see, my brain just goes. And this is why I've been at a point where I'm just like, I need to pause. I can't just get it out there. But like I said, it's been, a little over a week, and we need to make sure our messages are getting out there because we need to be in the know, number one. And number two, know what's going on so we can stand together. Okay. So Hamas went in, they attacked Israel. They fled with people that they kidnapped, many elderly women, a lot of children. There's been videos that have been posted where these Hamas terrorists are walking around and they're holding children. Why? Human shields, which is absolutely, oh my goodness, disgusting. It makes my skin as a mother just like, goosebumps. I cringe. It's absolutely disgusting, right? And now they're said to be hiding in the Gaza Strip, right? Which is a really, really, really tiny area. And I'll be honest, this area over there, like I knew about, I've looked at on the map in the past, but like super educated, not so much. But it's super tiny area. Like we're talking the size of like a northeastern tiny little state, okay? And the amount of people packed into this area is insane. So now Israel is attacking that area, fighting back. They have declared war. And the world is in an uproar as this is happening because they're saying Israel's going in there and killing innocent Palestinians. Okay? But these terrorists are also hiding there. And this is where, as a human, right, with a heart, I struggle because I'm like, well, that sucks because there's children and there's innocent people there as well, just like there was in Israel when they were attacked. War sucks, period. We've already seen that the last 2 years with Ukraine and with Russia, right? A lot of people instantly are like, oh, yuck, Russia. Okay, but there's still innocent people there too, right? You see both sides of it. Same with this whole thing. But as a Christian, somebody who's really been leaning into the Bible these last few years, right, and learning a lot, trying to grow in my faith, I knew instantly that Saturday morning, when I looked at social media and saw that this had happened, I knew instantly, holy crap, that's God's people. God's people just got attacked. God promised the Israelites, they had the promised land, right? And it's our job to make sure we're honoring that. And you will hear right now a lot of Christians saying that. Like, we need to make sure we are doing what we can to stand with Israel, to protect Israel. Those are God's people. So, the fact that spurred it all, right? This attack, the war began. Now, let me weave through some of my commentary, some of my thoughts, some of the things that I've learned these last few days that, like I said, no promises of peace here today. No magic pixie dust to make it all feel better for all of us. In truth, you might listen to this and be like, well, I just feel like even ickier. Thanks, Shauna. That's not my point, right? At the end, like I said, I have some tips that I've been trying to lean into to, I don't know, to make some headway to, I don't know. We're rambling. We're rambling a lot today, y'all. But this is stuff we need to talk about. So, few, I guess, rabbit holes that I've gone down this last week. Some learnings that I had. So the first one, right? End of the day, you always go, okay, well, what's going on with the government, right? War, governments are all involved. And because this is Israel, the U.S., right? That's one of our allies. We defend Israel. Well, you weave through it all, right? You start to figure things out. And in today's times where knowledge is like snap of your fingers, you learn things instantly, you can dig into stuff. It didn't take long for people to all of a sudden be like, well, wait a minute, who's kind of funding Hamas, these terrorists? Then their ties go to Iran. Because shortly after all this happened, right, there were legislative, so their government over in Iran started chanting death to America. They were very excited and happy with the attacks on Israel and the ties that Israel has with America, right? Like, they were just very excited, which is, in my mind, absolutely repulsive. But then it comes out shortly after all this began. I mean, we're talking like less than 24 hours, right? So Iran had money froze. It was like $6 billion, a lot of money. And the money was theirs. But it got froze because of some things that they had done. And one of the agreement pieces to unfreeze this money was that America got back some of our prisoners that they had. Well, so it comes out very shortly after, wait a minute, America unfroze $6 billion and then they funded some terrorists to go and do this attack? crappy looking coincidence, right? And I'll be honest, like the information on that continues to come out each and every day, and it contradicts the day previously, and then it goes back. I mean, because that's the world we live in, right? Misinformation all the time. But we know that America did have a hand in unfreezing $6 billion from Iran. Another piece that came out, so you may recall 2 years ago that Joe Biden, the U.S. government, made the call to leave Afghanistan, to pull out. And the way that it went down was not super smooth, right? They pulled out the troops and left all of our stuff there, thinking we were going to get that later. Who knows what their logic was, right? I mean, every conspiracy theorist, which, let's face it, a lot of them have been right? They have their ideas on why. But the fact of it, we left all of our equipment there. We're talking all of our military equipment. And some of what Hamas used in these attacks has been traced back to that equipment. So we're talking Hamas using American military equipment in an attack against Israel. It's also coming out that the plan that Hamas set up, to do all this was known. And American intelligence did have some of it. So it's just super frustrating for us as Americans and people that are like, oh, I'm trying to stay in the know. I want to know what's going on. And then you start digging and you see things like this. It's like, what in the heck? Wait a minute. You all aren't doing your jobs, right? Especially when you got Joe Biden and a lot of other politicians coming out, right after these attacks, swearing their ally agreement with Israel. We stand with Israel. Wait a minute. You put all these other pieces together and it's like, wow, it sure kind of seems like you're kind of spurring on both sides, right? So for me as a human, this is something that I'm just like, what in the goodness sakes is going on? And you can talk to people with big old tinfoil hats, and they'll be like, oh, let me tell you. And they'll dive down rabbit holes that are miles and miles long, okay? You talk to people on the other side of things, and they're like, oh, all that's misinformation. There's absolutely no truth to any of it. And you're just like, what am I supposed to think? So that's why I just, as a human, I'm like, okay, I'm going to continue to learn as much as I can and pay attention to as much as I can. Try to take pieces with a grain of salt. But at the same time, also understanding that, at least history, these last few years, the people that are more on the conspiracy theory side have been right. So another piece of all this debacle, right, that I've really been chewing on this week. As I said, Israel is God's people. And people over here in America, the churches, people of faith, there are some that are really standing up strong. I mean, if you paid attention, I think it was like last Thursday, maybe, in New York, they did like a sermon outside with thousands of people. Thousands. And this is happening all over the place. The one in New York City really just got highlighted because they did communion, like they did the whole dealio. Thousands and thousands of people, thousands of priests, thousands of nuns. It was crazy. Okay? And like I said, there are different things like this happening all over the place. And then there's definitely people of faith, buildings of faith, that are not saying boo about this issue. As a person of faith myself, I'm really struggling with this. I've talked to several other people that I know well from the world of faith that they're like, and it's our job to stand up for Israel. So this is something that I personally have just been struggling with, because it's really disappointing to watch people of faith not honoring what we are told in the Bible. In at least my mind, and like I said, the mind of many other people who are really, really strong in their faith. And I know that because some of these people I know very well. Another piece this past week that's really kind of stirred me up and pissed me off. Like I said, right? The Palestinians, do they have innocent people that will be impacted? Absolutely. And that sucks. But the amount of support for Palestine over here in America right now has disgusted me. And if it was in like a, more hippie-ish way, I don't know. Not hippie-ish, because I know when the hippies were doing their thing, right, anti-war, like I remember our soldiers, like from what I've learned, right, in history, they really took a hard hit because of that, because they didn't have the support of the American people. But the way that this is happening right now as they're supporting Palestine, I've saw so many interviews of people being interviewed and being like, well, but Americans were attacked, or because there were Americans over in Israel and some of them were taken even as the hostages. Okay, they were kidnapped. And several people have been interviewed and they're saying, well, F America, death to America, nastiness like that. And it's getting highlighted on TV, on interviews, and like in many of these spaces, not in a negative light. Okay, in some, absolutely, especially the more conservative outlets, the more right-leaning outlets, they're trash and stuff like that. But on some of the even mainstreamed things, they're showing these people supporting Palestine and saying awful things about America. And it made me so upset. So upset. I reached out to a friend, military guy, incredible patriot. And I said, you were, and he's older than me. And I said, you are old enough to remember the 9/11 attacks much clearer than I am, because I was in middle school when those happened. I don't remember people, standing up like that and being so pro, essentially in my mind, terrorism to a point, right? And I hate America. And this guy was like, absolutely not. No. Patriotism filled the space and we all stood strong. And this is a deep, dark hole that we can go down, because people are like, well, but because a lot of people believe that it wasn't actually terrorists that fully drove the 9/11. It was the American government, and they played on our emotions, and they used our hate of terrorism to kind of drive things and blah-bitty, right? So yes, let me tell you, I can see both sides. But I can also tell you this. For me, it still is coming back to, we are supposed to honor God's people. And we're talking terrorism, period. I'm going to stand strong. Because I sure as hell want the rest of the world, if that ever happens here, to stand strong against terrorism. And watching these college kids, college campuses, people that, I just don't look at as great people standing up in support of that kind of shit is super frustrating. Super frustrating. And let me tell you, and I've seen this in several people that I actually follow online who, some of them, I will be transparent, I didn't even know some of them did have Jewish heritage in their genealogy, right? Some of them I did, not all of them. But watching them online and how they're behaving and how this is so, not even just disgusting, this is so sad to them. So sad. But then how the Jewish are being attacked right now from, those pro-Palestine individuals, my heart immediately goes to the people that have gone through the Holocaust, because there still are survivors, right? And now they're at this point. Wow. Wow. I did do a little digging. I couldn't find a ton, but I did hear in Germany even, some of these protesters were going around. I'm sure it was like their irony, right, in their mind, going around and spraying the Star of David on some of the Jewish buildings. Can you imagine how triggering that is to people that have survived the Holocaust? If that is indeed true, and like I said, I did try to research this. I looked it up for a while, and I found a few resources, but the ones that I found, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to say that's 100% fact, right? But I did see it out there. And if this is true, like I said, the Holocaust survivors that are going through that right now, holy goodness, like, I cannot even begin to wrap my head around what they are experiencing, what they're feeling. And in a society, I'm sorry, that lives with the whole, hashtag trigger warning, like, are you freaking kidding me? But then you can look at shit like that and be like, get over it. You know, pro-Palestine, blah, blah, blah. What? Come on, man. All right. So as I promised, right? It was going to be ramblings today. This is a total Jenna ramblings today. Another piece, though, that's really been swirling in my brain. It's been all over the place. If you already haven't heard this, you have your head in a hole, right? But people saying the possibility of this happening here in America totally could happen. I mean, they called for a day of jihad last Friday. The Hamas did, right? So essentially a day of rage. Did it go down, knock on wood, as they planned? No. And I pray it doesn't in the future. Like they don't have, retaliation later, da-da-da. But the fear that this actually could happen here in America is heightened because of two things. One, our open border policy. Do you know they have already found terrorists here? The amount of people that are here and they have no idea is crazy. Crazy sauce. Putting our country at such a risk because people are literally just pouring in. And a fact that I thought about was I remember 2 years ago when the whole Afghanistan thing did happen and they're trying to get people out, right? Trying to save these people. And they're just bringing them here by the plane full, which, okay, I understand. Some of them, yes, innocent and they needed to get away from the Taliban. Some of them were straight up Americans. But I remember even back then, they were finding like, oh my goodness, this person should not have been here. This person, we need to get out of here. They should not be here. You can't tell me people didn't sneak through the cracks as all that went down. And if Hamas got their weapons from Afghanistan, you can't tell me some of them not so great people didn't sneak through at those moments. Another fact that I actually just learned today. So, speaking of the open border, right? As people are coming in and America is, they're footing the bill. Oh, I have a very close family member that if you touch on this topic, oh my Lana, you're going down a wormhole because they're going to dive in and be pretty irate for a while because this is maddening to this individual, okay? And I see it. But as they come over here, they're given money, they're given cell phones, they're given free college now. I mean, it's insane. Insane. But from what we're learning, right? And this has been now seen in different emails and things of this sort. People have actually released this now. Different Americans have now released this information in the last couple days. America is going in and they're trying to evacuate Americans that are over in Israel to get them out of there. Okay? And they're charging them. They're making them sign a promissory note telling America that we will pay you back. And okay, I'm the type of person that, nobody gets a free handout, right? But when you're talking a situation like this, calm the F on. Get them people out of there. Period. Pile them on a plane, fly their asses home. Not, read this email, read this letter, sign this promissory note. Essentially signing away, thousands of dollars. Okay, I've created your... Sorry, my phone just started talking. See, they're always listening, y'all. But anyways. But it's insane to me because we're a country that is so willing to hand over free things. Free college. Oh, you're sneaking into our country? Let's give you some money. Let's give you a cell phone. Oh, Ukraine's at war. Let's give them billions and billions and billions and billions. Oh, you're American? Stuck in a war zone? Oh, wait a minute. You got to sign this saying you're going to give every dime back. What the hell? Blows my mind. Blows my mind. And from what I'm learning today, because like I said, this is something I just found out today. Heard it on one of my, favorite podcasts that I listen to, and I was like, no effing way. So I start looking into it, and then ironically, a buddy, he sends me it. I'm like, dude, I've heard this now a couple times today. This is insane. And then as I'm looking, people are saying, yeah, same thing happened in Afghanistan when people needed to get back to the U.S. from Afghanistan 2 years ago. The government was charging that. Like, wowzers. And like I said, I'm all for no free handouts. But come on. Like, there's got to be a moment where you're like, really? Seriously? I think the biggest thing, so my husband and I have been talking about this a lot. And I want to say it was last week. He said something about, I think I'm going to start a new hashtag. I said, oh yeah? And my husband's not one for social media like that at all. So I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, hashtag, my tinfoil hat is bigger than yours. I'm like, that is so freaking awesome. And I don't know, we're not like huge tinfoil hat people, or I guess we weren't. And the more time goes on, these last 4 years, we're like, holy crap, I think we need another, roll of tinfoil, because we definitely do put the tinfoil hat on the regular lately. But the more I think on all of these ramblings that I just shared with you, right? Now your head's spinning because you're like, goodness gracious, this girl's a disorganized mess, which if you know me, you know I'm not. I'm very organized. But as I put all these pieces together, I'm like, goodness, you got to just think at some point, we are pawns. We are pawns. In the grand scheme of things, we are pawns. Because all these governments are doing wild things. And if you pay any attention, you're like, it's kind of a game to some of these people. It sure as heck seems. And now you're sitting there thinking, okay, this girl of faith, this girl that, right, she's kind of involved in politics, and now she's saying we're all just pawns. All right, kind of, yeah. But end of the day, that's not just, we're all pawns, screw it, I'm just going to go on and live my life. There's still things I try to do. And let me share that with you. All right, so what can we do about this? That's just how I work. That's how my brain works. I always, no matter what the situation, I sit and I think, okay, what can I do about it? What are my action steps? What plan can I have? Because I think, honestly, that's how I find peace. But that's how God made me, okay? That's how I got involved in politics in the first place. And if you've followed my story, you know that. Back in 2020, I was like, okay, what can I do? What are my action steps? And getting involved was my action step. Obviously, very sub-action step pointed as I went, right? We had to create some sub points. But that's how my brain has gone these last couple of days. What can I do about this weird, yucky, slumpy feeling? And I think first and foremost, we need to normalize that happens. And the first step is sometimes just being okay with that. Whether it's, I'm going to have a pity party, depending on the situation. This, I don't call it pity party. This is just like, I'm going to feel the feels, because this is legit, wild, chaotic world that we're living in at this moment. And sometimes actually fully feeling that as much as we can, understanding it, and knowing that what I'm feeling is acceptable, right? The second thing, staying in the know, staying current, staying up to date, not putting your head down in the sand, and paying attention to what's really going on. And there's two caveats with that. One, with limits, right? You need to have some limits. We live in a society where there is so much out there, and I recently saw a reel, or I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw it on social media recently. And it talked about how we live in a society where we pretty much have the ability to know everything going on. Every decently large thing, right? Do I know that my neighbor just got a cold and the neighbor up the road picked his nose? And no. But every decently large thing going on, we are all in the know because of social media and technology. And you have to ask yourself, to a point, that's a lot to ask of the human, right? God, he's always, he is knower of all, always has been. Humans have not. There was once a time where you really only knew what was going on in your bubble, in your world. You may have known a little bit about what was going on in your community. Word eventually maybe got to you about larger things. But you didn't know what happened halfway across the world in a blink of an eye. And nowadays you can. Okay? So we need to have some limits. Whether that be, okay, I'm going to allow myself an hour a day on my social media apps to pay attention to what's going on. Or, you know what, I am only going to allow myself a half hour before bed to really kind of catch up. Otherwise, I get lost in it and I can sit in it for hours. And for people like me who, I admit, I have an addictive personality. I could sit and learn about what's going on in the world for hours and hours and hours. And I could do it in different forms. So in some way, shape, or form, I could kind of convince myself that it's okay and it's normal. I read the news this morning, and then I cruised social medias, and then I listened to some podcasts. Oh, and then I popped into YouTube, doing all these different things, but yet essentially pouring all that knowledge on myself, right? I'm submersing myself. So you need to have limits. Don't overdo it. Don't put yourself in this, I'm going to dig my head down into this hole so deep that I have no idea what's going on, which, trust me, there are plenty of people like that. And that boggles my mind just as much as the people that are doing other crazy shit, I guess, in the world. You need to know what's going on. You cannot be completely oblivious. That, my friends, is what invites disaster. You need to know. My second caveat, pay attention to the sources you're getting your info from. I said it a few minutes ago, right? You know what? I've researched this a little bit. I haven't had the ability to find any really solid resources that I know I trust sharing this. So just know that this comes kind of with a disclaimer. That's what I shared that piece earlier with, right? Pay attention to the sources. I guarantee you, and I can promise you, I don't go to all mainstream media sources for all of the info. I dig around. I check those, absolutely. But then I dig around to other ones that I've learned to trust, learned to know, they actually have really reputable information. A lot of times what they say I find out is true. Okay? Those are the ways you need to make sure you're informing yourself. Find solid sources And my best advice is find a blend. These ones, they lean a little more right. These ones are really just neutral. And these ones, I found really lean a little bit more left. Find a mix so that you're informing yourself kind of with a range of information to keep on top of stuff. Because unfortunately, if in today's world, if you're informing yourself with one type of blocked information, all of a sudden you're like living in this bubble of, and I'm quick because obviously, right, I'm GOP secretary, so obviously I'm more on the right side of things. And I'm quick to be like, holy crap, that person, oh my goodness, they live in a leftist bubble. They only pay attention to what the leftist and the mainstream say. But I've also seen plenty of people on my own side that I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, get your head out of your rear end and stop just paying attention to right-winged extreme types of information. Because there are other pieces you need to focus on. Okay? Because a lot of times it's a blend. A blend of it is what typically comes true. Obviously, I'm going to caveat that a little bit. It does lean a little more right lately, but that's just, obviously, people can say it's my personal opinion. A lot of other people that agree with me on the regular, you're like, yeah, but you know what, Jenna? That tends to be the trend these last few years. But nonetheless, right? So those two caveats. Limits, and make sure you're paying attention to the sources. So we've got, give yourself the normalization that, oh my goodness, feeling yucky. All right, it's normal, okay? Number 2, stay in the know. Number 3, pray. Pray, 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 and pray some more. Because that's what we need. Faith, right? It's a piece of our armor. We have to have faith. We have to have faith. He's the Almighty. He knows all, right? As I said a couple minutes ago, the only one that truthfully should know it all and has the power to do so while still taking care of all the other pieces, okay? We need to pray. In times of chaos, in times where things just seem completely absurd and horrific and the world is hard, you lean on our Lord. And number 4, surround yourself with people of faith, right? As the Bible says, if you're with 2 or more people in my name, right? That's when he becomes present. But when you're surrounding yourself with people of faith too, it is encouraging. It brings more hope. It brings a positive feeling. It just brings that sense of peace. And you may have moments even with those people of faith that you're both kind of just like down in the dumps together. But then you bring that power of Jesus into that realm. I've done this even in the house. We've really been making sure that we're praying specifically for this time. Even with Mac. So like for parents, this is something even that we're incorporating with the girls. We age appropriate, right? Haley is very in the know on what's going on. She has a clear understanding. We've talked about it. She asked a couple questions. McKenna are explaining to her, some of God's people, the Israelites, are under attack. And we need to pray for them, baby. And she does. When I lead it, obviously, I word it my way. But then when she leads it, it's typically something like, God's people, we love you. Or something of that sort. She said it a few different ways now. But like, age appropriate. But we still, together, people of faith, coming together to pray, to reflect, to just tribe together about what's going on. My tip, step, whatever you want to call it, number 5. Continue. Also, if you haven't even started, get started. So start or continue to take action on doing what you can for the world beyond yourself and your household. Y'all, like, this is one of my soapboxes. I can get on this for a long freaking time. Your house is important. Your family is important, 1,000%. That is what gets the majority of my attention. That's for dang sure, right? My girls, my hubby. Majority of my attention. But it doesn't end there because I know their world doesn't end there. I am expecting to send out my girls into the world to function as adults at some point and create their own family and be in the world in their own way. So that means in my eyes, I need to make sure I'm doing what I can within my power to impact the world in the most positive way I possibly can. So like I said, soapbox, right? Like I am so sick of people being like, oh, I'm just here to like take care of my family. And girl or dude, get your head out of your ass. It goes beyond that. Do you think your four walls are going to protect your kids forever? No. Go out there and do something about it. But whatever your action steps look like to impact the world, to better it, continue with those or get those going if you haven't started. Like I said, I was kind of in the dumps this past week or so. I didn't let it stop me. I still went to a fundraiser for a pro-life organization. I, still went and taught Awana last week, getting Bible verses into different kids' heads. I still we had a Minnesota Federation of Republican Women convention. I still went to that because I knew we were going to be doing some important work, getting some new leadership in play. You need to continue with those steps. The world doesn't stop because we feel shitty. It doesn't. Number 6, create a plan. All right, so this whole kind of thing, right? This is your plan to get out of the rut. But beyond the rut, all right, what's your plan beyond that? Bigger picture. So like, for example, for us, kind of figuring it out. Like, what are we going to do? Depending on which way the world goes, that kind of stuff. And I can tell you, it can be very small things like, for example, some people I make sure our home is armed. Okay. Some people have full out arsenals. Yeah, everybody has their thing, right? Some people are kind of stocking up on food right now. Others surrounding themselves with more people of prayer or setting up an extra Bible study every week. Hell, I was listening to one of my guys that I listen to in podcast. He's a podcaster. He recently bought a tank. I don't know if I'm going to buy a tank, but I can tell you, this was one of the steps this dude had in his plan. But we need to have a plan for our own person / our own family. I can tell you my plan also goes bigger picture. UPC, United Parenting Coalition, which FYI, if you haven't checked out UnitedParentingCoalition.org, get your rear end to the website, number 1. If you haven't listened to the podcast where Mike and I announced what that is, it's a couple episodes back. But United Parenting Coalition, this is a new nonprofit Mike and I created to equip parents so they can raise their families in today's times in alignment with their beliefs and their values. To us, this brings us a lot of peace, especially in this week. It's like the world is upside down. Is UPC going to fix it? No. Sorry. Let's be real, right? No. But it is a step. It's an action piece that we hope helps other families that are like us, right? Hooks them up with the resources they need as this world stays pretty freaking chaotic. Because let's face it, it's been, the last 2 years, and for people that are beyond me, they've been much more involved for longer. They can probably bring those ties back for years and years and years and years and years, right? Oh no, there's a cycle every 2 years or every 4 years, or, if you talk to those people, they know that stuff. But I can tell you from my own experience and me having my blinders removed these last few years, right? It went COVID, Ukrainian war, and now this. And were there other smaller things throughout there? Absolutely. The riots of the summer of 2020, right? The different political craziness that we've all dealt with. the school uproars. Like, there's a lot. But in my head, those three things, Afghanistan was sprinkled in there, right? All that stuff. But the main three really huge focuses brought a lot of chaos: COVID, Ukraine, and now this. So make sure you have a plan. Sit down, talk to your spouse. Mike and I talked about ours a lot this last few days here. What are you planning for? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not a pro. Not a prophet. Not a future teller. And are we planning each and every little piece? No. That's God. And does God tell us not to worry, not have anxiety? Yep. I'm trying. I'm praying a lot. But in addition to that, he also doesn't say sit on your rear end and do absolutely nothing ever. Right? So, my final one. Step, tip, I don't care what you call these. Either way. Number 7. Speak the F up. When you get a thought, when you're watching the world and you're like, oh my Lana, oh my goodness. Because if we are continuing to just remain silent, I think that's what's got us here. I listened to a podcast earlier today, and this gentleman, he's of the mindset that it's too late. No matter what we do, speaking up, it's not going to matter. And I don't know, maybe he's right. I pray not. But even if you speak up, you inspire one other person. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's your mom. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's somebody who just follows you on social media and because you become somebody who posts, or maybe you just impact one other life, one other family. To me, that's awesome. Isn't that what this is supposed to be about? And don't go out there and be a keyboard warrior or somebody who's going to battle the other side of whatever argument or hill you pop into. Trust me, I've done it. It's worthless. But when you feel convicted enough that you have a thought, when you have a message, we are not supposed to just hold it in our heart. Especially when, if I'm speaking to people of faith. And my pastor kind of touched on this to a point, right? He was talking about how we need to be the light. And I think a lot of this, right? And don't get me wrong, plenty of Christians can go in a way that you're like, dude, you're just spreading bad. You're spreading hate, or you're spreading fake news or whatever, right? But if you're leading with your heart and you're leading with God, you're praying, you're reflecting, you're taking his message, you're trying to impact things to better them in some way, shape, or form, share it. Stop being quiet. Because I can tell you, the other side is not quiet. We need to make sure we are the salt. We need to make sure we're adding that positive, the hope, the faith. I could tell you, there's plenty of moments. And I think part of it sometimes is just fear. I want to tell myself is logic. But at the end of the day, what I think it comes down to is, honestly, it's the devil coming into my head and holding me back, giving me fear, making me question myself. Because there's a lot of times I'm like, well, what's too much? What's too far? What's going to make me seem crazy if I say it? Right? I don't know, dude. I think we're getting to a point where a lot of the stuff we're going to share, there might be some people that think it's crazy, but a lot more people are starting to be like, you know what? It sounds a little different, or it sounds a little out there, but if you look around and you pay attention to what's happened, it's not too far-fetched, or it's not too deep, or it's not too wackadoodle. If you're truly praying and reflecting and getting messages in your heart that you feel, I can't be quiet about these things. I can't be quiet about this thought. I can't be, when I watched that or when I saw this or when I learned that and this response came into me, I can't be silent about it. Share it. Inviting God in is huge. Like I can tell you, there's actually a message that I want to send this week to a specific individual. And I have not done it yet because I'm praying on it. Like I want the Lord to come into me with that message. I'm going to speak up. Absolutely. But unlike old Jenna, who used to hop on it, say whatever popped into my mind, right? I'm holding off. I'm waiting until the right words, the right time. Will it be this week? Probably. And no, like we don't give God the timeline, but I also know we could sit and pray and reflect and question ourselves forever. Forever. So, one, it's okay to feel like that sometimes. It's okay to feel down in the dumps or feel like, oh my goodness, the world is just upside down. 2, stay in the know. Setting limits that are appropriate, not too much, not too little information, right? Not keeping your head down in a hole. Pay attention to the sources you're getting that information from. Number 3, pray, and pray some more. Number 4, surround yourself with other people of faith. 5, continue, or start if you haven't, taking action steps for the world beyond you and your household. 6, create a plan. 7, speak up. So, as we wrap up, I sure as heck don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. We as a whole, collective, do not have all the answers. And we never will. We're not supposed to. Because God has that ability and only He has that ability. But we are supposed to have faith. Because remember, when we sit down, right, as my mentor always says to me, when we sit down and we have our final appointment with Jesus, I don't know about you, but I want Him to look at me and be like, Jenna, girl, you followed. You had faith. You believed. You spoke up when it was right. You used the skills and the gifts that we gave you appropriately. And you continued to have hope and believe in us. Even when times were bleak, even when it was difficult. You guys, we are not alone in this journey. We have the victory behind us. We have Jesus with us all the time, and He's already won. So remember, each and every day, when you wake up, just like me, right? Every day I wake up. God, please equip me in your full armor. Make sure you're doing that same darn thing. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, catching this legit, real, and raw ramblings. And I look forward to catching up with you soon in the next one. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling. found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there.